Welcome to the Diary of Discovery, the podcast where we delve deep into the human experience of healing and transformation. I'm your host, Jacky, and each week we will sit down with inspiring individuals who have embarked on their own personal journeys of healing and self-discovery. From overcoming trauma to navigating life's challenges, our guests share their raw and honest stories, offering insights, wisdom, and hope to all who tune in. So grab your favorite cup of tea, find a cozy spot, and join us as we uncover the power of resilience, courage, and the pursuit of authenticity. This is the Diary of Discovery. Amazing. Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. I'm super excited to welcome another incredible guest to tell us all about their healing journey. So, do you want to tell everyone who you are and where you are in the world?
Hi, Jacky. Thank you for having me here. I am Gwen Baird, and I am living it's right on the border of Northeast and North Yorkshire. So it's like North Yorkshire, basically. Um, and it's a lovely part of the world. Countryside, beautiful, peaceful. Can't ask for better. It's lovely.
Oh, amazing. That sounds absolutely blissful. So, as you know, and everyone who's listening knows, we're always going to start at the beginning of the journey. So, tell us what led to your healing moment. What was the kind of start of you realizing something had to change for you?
Well, that's a very good question, Jackie. Very good. Where it all started for me was I hit a point where I had moved up to this part of the world and I was working in sales at the time and I was traveling the length and the breadth of the country selling into the crafting world. So I would go around all the retailers, selling to the shops. It could be a whole range of things from paper crafts to oil paints to anything in between. You name it in the crafting world, I would sell it. Loved the job, met some amazing people, but something was starting to happen with me. I wasn't feeling too well. And anybody that's ever worked in sales knows that there is a lot of merchandise you have to carry around with you. And for me, because I had my own sales agency. So it was, like working for yourself. You were your own boss. You could go where you wanted, when you wanted. It was bliss. But carting around all this was becoming a problem for me. I knew there was something not quite right, health-wise. Now, unfortunately, there was a family history of a heart condition called dilated cardiomyopathy. So at that point, my mind did wander down that road. Thought best we get checked out. So a few tests later and some health issues later, it was actually diagnosed that I did have dilated cardiomyopathy. And because of the family history, I knew only too well what that involved. You know how they say sometimes a little knowledge is dangerous? Well, in this case, it was like, right, okay, we know what's coming down the line. And what actually made it even more impactful for me was my dad was 42 and diagnosed. I was 42 and diagnosed. Now, my dad's journey, he went on for about 5 years and then he needed a heart transplant operation. So my mindset automatically went, well, that's it. In 5 years' time, I'm going to need a heart transplant operation. This is huge. This is life-changing. So I had a little pity party, for want of a better word, just for a few days, thinking, oh no, this is going to happen to me. It happened to dad. But it also affected my middle daughter. She was 5 months old and she was diagnosed with dilated cardiomyopathy. And then when she reached the age of 2, she needed a heart transplant operation. And both dad and little Fiona sadly died after the operation. So dad was really young. Little Fiona didn't survive. So you can imagine my state of mind when the diagnosis came. It was horrendous. But always the optimist. I gave myself a couple of weeks, but I thought I can't carry on carting round all this heavy luggage, much as I loved it. What on earth am I going to do? Now we're talking about 25 years ago now, quite a wee while ago. So what am I going to do? So I was sat in front of the computer, and this was in the days when social media was just coming coming out its shell and people were starting to talk about it. And I was just sitting thinking, I've got to do something. I cannot do nothing. So what are you going to do, Gwen? And up popped this advert for it was a free course, learn how to do social media. And I thought, let's just do this. So I've got nothing else to do at the moment. We'll have a look. And you know that old phrase, as they say, the rest is history? Well, that was the change for me. That was the moment when I thought, wait a minute, I can do this from home to suit myself. So I thought, how do I get started? And I thought, all those brilliant companies that I was selling the crafting for, I thought, I wonder if they're using social media. I wonder if they've even thought. So I contacted a few of they were called principals and said, look, have you ever thought about getting yourself on social media to get yourself noticed and that'll bring in sales and etc. etc. And they all said, well, we've heard about it, but we've never tried it. So that was how I got my first customers. So I ended up doing social media management for the companies that I initially was selling for. And it was good because they knew me, what I was like personality-wise, what I was like at sales. So it was a bit of a win-win. And I thought, you know, I really like this. This is good. Now, in the early days, when I was jumping from platform to platform, honestly, Jackie, the one that resonated the most with me was Twitter. I just got it. And I instantly fell in love with it. Nowadays, not so much, but way back then, it was fun. And you had a 24-hour networking party right in the palm of your hand worldwide. It was there to take advantage of. And I made some great connections. I got some great sales. And I actually went on to develop that. And I ended up doing Twitter training for people. I would run their Twitter accounts. I would do Twitter challenges, and I was just having a great time. Loved it. So, and that was a good healing process because it gave me a purpose, you know, and it made me realize that when you get a diagnosis or something big happens in your life that's life-changing, it's out of your control, it doesn't mean that your life's over. You know, you've got choices. You can either sit and wallow in self-pity, or you can think, well, what can I do now? You know, what
I love that.
opportunities can I get my hands on now that's going to give me a purpose? And that developed into my passion, really. I saw how powerful social media could be. And also, Jackie, I don't know about you, but a few years back, social media used to be fun. It used to be entertaining. It used to be a nice place to be. And it really has all changed now. And thankfully, so has my progression into business changed. And it was from the social media that I involved into, I'd done a lot of work for clients. You know, I was doing work for them. And I got into the systems and processes behind what makes things work, which again, it just
Mm.
fascinated me. Totally fascinated me.
Mm.
And that was how I ended up wandering into the coaching space because I had lots of knowledge. And when you put your knowledge, your experience, and your life experiences together, something magical happens, and you come up with a uniqueness that you've got that can help other people. And it
Oh,
helps yourself as
absolutely.
well on the way. Yeah,
Yeah, 100%. Oh my gosh, like that must like getting a diagnosis like that must have been such a like even though it was kind of expected, like you kind of knew
yeah,
that there was a
yeah.
family history and it could be a possibility, it must have still been such a big thing to happen.
It was
And
huge. Yeah. Yeah. And
oh,
because you've got the
absolutely.
little bit knowledge of what's happened previously, you go down that rabbit hole. I mean, we could just talk all day about dilated cardiomyopathy, but that's not what we're here to do. You know, that's another discussion for another day. But I mean, it's huge. huge. And there was lots of
Yeah.
things actually came out of that, the whole journey, even through my dad's journey, through my daughter's journey, and through my journey, that there's things that have happened that otherwise wouldn't have happened in life. There's experiences we wouldn't have had that not happened.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's always interesting, like when I talk to people on the podcast and it's, in a reflective space, it's really easy to be like, oh yeah, this happened and this happened, and then, we got to this good outcome in the end. But when you actually got your diagnosis and you were kind of in that pity party, as you called it,
Yes, yes.
with yourself, what did you have to kind of embrace about yourself or like accept about your situation in order to make that shift and start looking at that positive, optimistic? I know you said you're the forever
Yeah.
optimism, which is really great, but like, how did you shift back into that gear? And like, what did you have to kind of just embrace about yourself and be like, okay, this is where we're going now?
Yeah, it's a lot to do with mindset too. Mindset plays a huge part on how you deal and cope with situations. And initially, one of the biggest things you had to deal with was family because they're all, oh my goodness, no, oh, look what happened to your dad, look what happened to Fiona, oh. And so you're trying to keep them calm, and a lot of their reaction you can do without, but they've got to go through their emotions. So you're dealing with that, and then you're dealing with your own thought process, and it's like, okay, and you really you when I say you've got to be strong, that's maybe not the right terminology because you've got to find the willpower to believe in yourself again because it's so easy to just give up and think, why me? This is terrible. Life's never going to be the same. Like I thought, no, I'm not doing that. I'm going to make the most of what I've got left. And I'm still here, going strong. So that is great. And of course, medicine has advanced so much from it was 1983 that my dad had his heart transplant. So medicine's come a long way since then. Medicine's now more about preventative. There is no cure, sadly. There isn't a cure they've got that can make this condition heal, get better, and go away. And there's no quick fix with an operation that's going to make it better. There are things they can do at certain stages, but ultimately it's a heart transplant operation you're going to need if you get that bad. But the medication now and the way they look after you is more about the preventative to stop it getting any worse. So that's where we've got to. But my own thought process was, okay, Gwen, make the most of what you've got. You know, take every one. I mean, honestly, every day is like I always try every single day to think, right, what's good about today? And if nothing's good about today, let's make something good about today.
I love that.
That's how I get through it all because there are some days when it feels really, really bad. But it's also getting to know your body. You know what you're capable of, you know what you can't do, and it's accepting the fact that sometimes you've got to say no because you know that you won't be able to do the thing, even though you desperately want to do it.
Yeah,
Yeah, for example,
absolutely.
one of the
I
things
think for so,
one of the
oh
things I
yeah,
would
go for
love
it.
to do is I would love to try an ice bath. These iced baths everybody takes. It says, oh, it's transformational. You feel wonderful. I would just love to just to try it, but I can't because it's too dangerous for me because it slows the heart rate right down. And with my condition, the heart rate is kept as low as it possibly can to prevent any deterioration and damage. And if I was to go into an iced bath, it could be no, we just won't even go there. So I can't do that. But it's one of the things I would love to try it. I just, you can't. So it's learning to accept the things that you can and cannot do. And once you get your head around that, it's okay. It's fine because there's other things that you can do that you probably wouldn't even have thought of doing had you just stayed on that normal path without without the diagnosis. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess like when you were going through this, so you've said already, obviously, that, there are moments where it's really hard and you kind of lean
Yeah.
into gratitude and lean into like what is good about this. And I absolutely love that. And I think for so many people, if they could just shift that, just one thing, like that is probably the easiest shift for people to make, is to actually genuinely feel true gratitude, regardless of what's going on.
Yeah.
But I always like to kind of do both sides of the coin, because I think a lot of the people that I speak to on the podcast and who are willing to speak about this journey have come out the other side and have found a way through it and have got that kind of
Yeah.
mental resilience to go through this sort of healing and get to a good outcome. But I know that on my own personal journey, it wasn't always like that. And there
Yeah.
were moments where it really wasn't all that good. And I always like to ask my guests, like, what did those moments look like for you? Were there moments where either you didn't think that you would make it, or you thought that actually this is, really hard, never going to be the same? Like, what was that side of the coin like for you?
Yeah. Oh, there were, I mean, be under no illusions, there were dark moments and there are still dark days when you think about things. And because when you're given a diagnosis of any kind, regardless to what it is, your mind goes to places that most people don't. Most people don't think about, you know, death and what if. And if I'm not here, to see the children grow up and see the children, whatever, 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 most people don't even think that because it's all taken for granted that it's just going to be the next step in the process. But so your mind does go down there and things happen. And I think one of the hardest bits for me is watching the kids grow up. And you just want to say to them, stop worrying about these things because they are not important. Have fun, grasp everything you can with both hands. But no matter how easy it is to say these things, even to other people, even to work colleagues, no matter how easy it is to say these things, they've got to feel it and believe it for it to work for them. It's a frustration more than anything else because I really do. I feel myself quite often, even like on a Zoom call, like a group Zoom call, and somebody's talking about their situation and how they feel they can't do this thing because they don't feel they're good enough. And I feel like I just want to take them and shake them and say, just do it. Just go out there and fucking do it because, you are good enough. It doesn't matter if people laugh at you. It doesn't matter if it doesn't work. You know, it's like if nobody turns up, who's going to know nobody turns up? Nobody's going to know because nobody was there. So try it. You don't know until you try. Does that make sense?
Yeah, oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I do like, so we had, for the people who listen to podcasts regularly, they'll know all of this, but we had 5 deaths in our family in a really short space of time. And there was exactly that kind of feeling in me as well, of like, actually, there's so much that we worry about that just doesn't matter, that just isn't relevant, that just, like, when it comes to the end and you're in those last final moments, they're not the things that you're thinking about. They're not the things that you're worrying about. They're not the things that you're talking about. Like, they're not the questions you're asking. Like, it's such a shift when you, I mean, I honestly believe like such a blessing for me in my, late 20s, early 30s to have learned that lesson, because most people don't learn it until
Yeah.
they're at the end of their life. Like, most people don't have that privilege of
Yep.
understanding something so deep before they actually get to it themselves. And I think that there's something really magical in that process of how can we shift the way that we look at things. And it's not perfect. I still sometimes get caught up in life, as everyone does,
Yep, we
but
all
it
do.
is that
Yep.
thing. Yeah, and it really does change your perspective on what's important and how we spend our time and what we do. And I guess like one of the questions I always like to ask guests is, what was the biggest outlook change for you from who you were before to who you became kind of after, and in your case,
Mhm.
after diagnosis. Like, what do you think that like belief or outlook shift was for you that was like the biggest
Well,
shift?
for me personally, it was nothing is guaranteed. Absolutely nothing is guaranteed. It could all be gone tomorrow. All of it. Everything, every last bit of it could be gone tomorrow. Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. How did that change your life? Like, how did that change how you showed up?
It's it's kind of funny because especially when you're in the online space, you get all this information thrown at you. No, you've got to shop, you've got to be consistent, you've got to be there every day, you've got to do this, you've got to be here, you've got to be there, everywhere. And it's like, do you know what? You don't have to. You do not have to. Consistency, yes, but consistency to me might be totally different to what consistency for you would be. And it's one of the things that I really talk about deeply, especially with my clients. It's your business, especially when you're in the online space. It is a case of you've got to mold a business that suits you, your energy, your lifestyle, your passion, what it is you want to do. The foundations have still got to be there, rock solid, but you build it to suit you, not what everybody's shouting at you on social media that you must be doing. You do it to suit you. Like if you're full of energy in the morning, like I am, I can get lots done in the morning. Don't ask me to do anything mid-afternoon or in the evening. It's just a no-no. I'm too pooped. No energy, can't deal with it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think that that again, like, not even just in business, but just in life in
yeah,
general, like social media paints this picture of what is possible and what people should be aiming for and what we should be doing and how we should do things. And I think it's really clear in business. You kind of see it a bit more starkly, I guess, than
mhm,
in other areas of life. But I always find it funny when people will say like, oh, you absolutely can't sell in this way anymore. You can only do it this way now, and this has changed, and now you can't do that anymore. And it always just makes me laugh because I'm like, just because you can't doesn't mean somebody else can't.
exactly. Yeah, yeah,
And when you look at it, somebody will make it sound like there's only one way to do things because they're a good marketer, because they're
yeah,
trying to sell something to you,
yeah,
not because that is actually the truth of the matter. The same as, you know, if you're telling people 5 a.m. wake ups, you've got to join the 5 a.m. club, but they're a night owl, it's not going to work. If you're
gonna
telling
work.
people you've got to work in, 3 hour blocks, because that's what science says is the most effective, but only for certain brains and not for others, like there's always the caveat of who you are and your
Yeah,
life. And I really think like one of the things I found on my healing journey was the process of getting to know myself better
yeah,
and just being much more unapologetic about what I need and who I am and how
yeah,
I do things. And you said earlier, like when you take that essence of like your uniqueness and your life experience and the things you've learned and you pair it all together, like you make this like unique, special
yeah,
thing that you can put into the world. And I think like it's so true in that process of you have to be able to look at actually what works for you, what doesn't work for you, how you want to work, how you want to heal, how you want to stay fit.
yeah.
Like the end goal can be the same, but the way
Exactly.
that people
Yeah,
get there, there's so many
it is.
options of how you do it.
Absolutely. And it's all about being you. I can't emphasize enough. The more you that you are, the more you attract the right people into your world and you repel everybody else. That's what makes it happen. That's what makes it work. Because if you are a people pleaser, which I did tend to veer in that direction. But if you're trying to please everybody, you've heard the phrase, you're pleasing nobody because you're not attracting the right person into your world. But one of the biggest things that took me a long time to learn to say was no. When you learn to say no, it is so freeing. Whether it be the wrong type of client, you think, oh, I don't want to say no because I'm going to upset them, so I'll try and help them. And it's a disaster because they just drain you. it's just a nightmare. But the minute you learn to say, no, you don't have to be rude, it changes everything. Yeah. And keep just being
Absolutely.
yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think also just understanding that no is a complete sentence is really
Yeah.
important. Like a
No,
lot of
full
the time,
stop.
people feel like they've got to say no, and then they've got to try and justify why they can't, like what the reason is, give solutions, like do all of these things. But actually, sometimes
Don't,
just
yeah,
saying no,
yeah.
we're
Just never
done. Like that's
apologize
the
for
whole
it.
thing.
Just say no, no apology needed. Just no.
Mm, absolutely. Oh, I love that. I love that. And so you said, like, obviously, you were doing sort of like sales, physically going around doing that work. You
Yeah.
moved into the online space and obviously did sales in the online space, and then you moved over into the coaching space, which is kind of the world that you live in now. And I guess like that journey through all of those different like iterations,
Yeah.
would you say that like the diagnosis and your healing journey was kind of part of that process of you finding your purpose and becoming the person
Absolutely.
that you are
Yeah.
now?
Absolutely. And because I sat down at one point and I thought, right, I'm going to sit down and it was one of the coaching programs I was in. And it goes, just sit down and think about everything you've done since you left school. And I'd done this and I thought, did it. And I wrote it all down and I went, wow, yeah, this experience led me to this, which led me to this, which led me to where I am now. And without all that life experience up to this point, I wouldn't be any good at doing what I'm doing now because I wouldn't have, the know-how. And it's amazing. We don't realize sometimes how capable we are until we take a look at ourselves first. Put ourselves first. Yeah.
Absolutely. I love that. I think it is so important for people to have that sort of like level of self-assurance, like actually, even if I don't know exactly what I'm doing, or even if I've not done it before, like my history shows that I'll figure it out. I'll be
Yeah.
able to get through it. Like I'll be able to come up with a solution. And I think that again, like that works for things that you're unsure of, but it also works for those really kind of like hard moments. Like one of my biggest kind of revelations to myself when I was going through depression was I have survived 100% of my hardest days. So I'm going to be able to continue to do that, and I'm going
Yeah.
to be able to get through this. And I think like sometimes even that in itself is such a like an important thing to hold on to when you're in a space where there's a lot of things going on that don't feel like they're good or
It
what you
does.
want
Yeah.
or moving in the right direction.
Yeah, it's easy for us to sit and overthink things, and that's the worst thing you can absolutely possibly do. But I learned that the hard way. It is a case of just be in the moment. It's something that when I feel like if I'm getting overwhelmed and the mind's going down the rabbit holes and I'm thinking, no, come back, right? We're here, we're sat at the desk, we're at the desk. What have I got in front of me? What's round about me? I'm here at the desk. This is the moment. I'm not, that hasn't happened, so let's not worry about it. And I bring myself back to the present moment. But it's easy to say. It's not always easy for people to do. But it's easy to
Yeah, oh,
say.
absolutely.
Yeah, but when you actually sort of practice that, it does work. I mean, I'm doing things now I never thought I would be doing in a million years, like with meditations and things that I listen to. And if somebody had told me, even just like 18 months ago, you'll be listening to vibration frequencies on YouTube for healing, I said, get out of here, but here I am. Yeah.
I literally love that. Yeah, I can relate to that so much with my healing
Mhm.
journey. Like when I look back and I'm like, if somebody had told me, 10 years ago that I
Yeah.
would be the person I am now, that I would, I mean, even just things like being a qualified yoga instructor, like if somebody had told me 10 years ago, like that would be
Yeah.
one of the things that I did in my life, I'd be like, whatever, like
Yeah.
absolutely not. But I do feel like that whole journey, it's just about getting to know yourself. Like it's just about figuring out what works for you and living your life in a way that feels very aligned for yourself.
It does. It's doing what brings you joy. I heard that expression a long time ago, and I always thought it sounded a bit corny, but it's so true. If you're doing what brings you joy, then you're happy. and you make other people happy. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
absolutely.
it shines out as well, when you're doing what you want to do. I mean, that's like, for example, but back to the business side in the online space, I'm very much a replay girl. I'll join something, and if it says replays are available, I'm in. If it said it's live, no replays, I'm thinking, well, count me out because I can't always guarantee I'm going to be at the live. But I'll do most things on replay. And people say, I don't see you much in the group. But you can bet your boots I've done more of the work because I've watched the replays and done the work and implemented the things, but they don't see that because it's not done in the live groups.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm the complete opposite. I'm like, replays? What? I'm never going to watch those.
Yeah,
Absolutely not. I'm going to be at the live calls, and that's the only way you're getting me to do the work.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
But it is like that's the whole point of it, I think. Like when you actually go through that process, and I think in business particularly, like once I accepted that that's who I am, I stopped buying things that weren't useful to me
yeah,
because I
yeah,
would buy things and think, okay, I'm going to make myself do this. But then I wouldn't because it's completely against who I am as a person and what is physically possible for my brain.
yeah,
And it would just be a waste of money in the end. And so actually going through and figuring that out and saying, like, actually, this is who I am, this is how I like to work, this is what works for me,
hmm,
this is the type of person I like to work with. Like it makes it so much easier to then say no to all of the things that I shouldn't be doing,
yeah,
which again is so important on this journey, like in all aspects of how we heal.
yeah,
And I guess like so I always like to ask people for like really practical advice. Like if somebody was sat in front of you and they were saying, I'm really struggling, maybe they've just been diagnosed with something, maybe they have just had some life altering news that weren't expecting. What is the starting point for them to go on this journey and start to heal, move into living a life that's more aligned?
What I would probably say to someone in that respect is I would say to them to take time out for themselves. Take time, go to either, favorite coffee shop, your favorite beach, favorite wherever it might be, your favorite room in the house, just find somewhere, go out, buy yourself the nicest journal that you can find, get a pen, and just write all your thoughts down in this book. It's not for anybody else to read, it's just for you, but get everything out your head onto that paper. Make that time for you and do it. And then read it back the next day or the day after, or give yourself a couple of days, read it back and see how you feel in a couple of days compared to that moment. And then just take it from there.
Things can always seem so much worse when they're in our heads.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of what's in our head is just the stories we tell ourselves.
Yeah,
It's exactly that. I mean,
100%.
I did 42, I'm now 63. I was 42 when I was diagnosed, and it was like, well, I've got until I'm 48 because dad died when he was 48. And coming up to my 48th birthday, I was so nervous because I thought 48, dad died when I was just so young, way too young to die. And I thought, now I've got too much life to live. I'm too young to go yet, too young
Mm.
to go yet. But the minute I passed the 48th birthday, it was like, I've made it. And it's silly because this is only me telling me this. Nobody else was telling me this. This was just in my head saying, I've made it. Dad was 48. I've made it to 48. I'm going to carry on now. And it's
Mm.
bizarre. Telling that out
Absolutely.
loud to anybody else must sound really, really weird. But this is the sort of things that we live with. We all have our own little thoughts that go on in our head. And it's just the stories we tell ourselves.
Yeah. And the thing is that a lot of people don't realize like how powerful your brain is and how much when you tell your brain to look for something. So if you tell your brain something is true, it looks for evidence of that thing.
Yeah.
So if it already has evidence to say, well, dad died at this point, so let's look for more evidence that this is going to be our
Hmm.
experience. And it's so interesting because so many people will say, oh, yeah, but this always happens to me and this is always how it is. And a lot of the time, they're talking about negative
Yep.
situations rather than positive ones. And I always laugh because one of the big things that I have said for years is like, I have a parking ferry in my car and I always find a place to park exactly where I want to park. And I never, ever, ever have an issue. And yesterday, myself and my husband popped out to go and do some shopping. And it's quite a busy area that we were going to. And there's like this one place that's really nice to park, and it's a lot cheaper than parking in like the big shopping center. And as we were driving up to the traffic lights where you can see this little road, my
Yeah.
husband was like, I don't think there's any parking. And I was like, there will be parking. I was like, turn in, there will be parking. And he was like, oh, I don't think so. I don't think so. And literally, as he was about to turn in, a car started reversing out of
Yeah.
one of the bays. And I was like, I always get parking. I
Yep.
always get parking. Like, there is absolutely no chance that I'm not going to get parking, like, without fail. And it's so interesting because when you genuinely believe something, everything around you will show you that that thing is true.
Yep.
You will
Yep.
see the parking space that nobody else did. You will go into the road that people wouldn't have even thought to go into because you believe that there is going to be a spot for you. Like,
Yep.
and
Absolutely.
it's
100%.
whatever your brain thinks is true, it is going to constantly prove to you and show you evidence. And I think
Yeah.
a lot of people don't realize how powerful that can be in shaping your life, in how you go out. Like if you're always looking for opportunities, opportunities will present
Yep.
themselves. But if you're
Absolutely.
always assuming that there's no opportunity, even if they're right there, you won't see them because you're not willing to look at them. And I think like that's one of the really big shifts from, I think, especially for me, like from depression and coming out of depression, like when I was in depression, my brain was just focusing on depression. It was just focusing on
Yeah.
all of the things that weren't working and all of the things that I felt I wasn't doing well enough and all of the ways I didn't feel like I was being useful in the world. Whereas actually, once I started to shift out of that space and started to believe in the fact that I'm, allowed to have a good experience in life and I'm allowed to have good things happen to me and, things are allowed to be good. There was like this instant shift in what started to happen and how I started to show up. And I think like the same for me, it all started with like a piece of paper and actually writing down these
Yeah.
are the things that I believe. Like these are the thoughts that I'm repeating to myself
Yeah.
continuously. And I remember, like, I think I've said this on the podcast before, but I remember when I was like heavily in my depression, I was chatting to my sister, my older sister, and she was saying to me, like, you've got to start saying nicer things to yourself. She was like, you're so mean to yourself. And I was like, I don't even know what a nice thing sounds like. Like, I can't even think of a nice thing. Like,
Yeah.
I don't even know what you mean. And she wrote me a list of nice things to say to myself. And the next time I saw her, she gave me, it was like a written list. She gave me this written list and she was like, you're going to read this to yourself every single day out loud. And like at that point, I didn't know it was an affirmation. I didn't know I was changing my brain chemistry. Like I
Yeah.
didn't know any of this good stuff was happening. But I literally used to stand with this list and read it in front of the mirror and not believe anything that was on it when I first started. Like
Yeah.
I literally was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
this is ridiculous. But over a period of time, like that list became my truth. Like I started looking at myself differently. I started looking at the world differently. I started expecting different things from the world.
Mhm.
And it was like that first like shift. And I was doing other things as well. Obviously, it wasn't just, that I was doing therapy and I was doing loads of things. But like I will always remember like that being one of those really big shifts for me in not only saying the things, but also then writing down like what came up when I said the things and really dissecting like where does this come from? Like why
Yeah.
am I continuously going back to this thought or this way of being or this belief of how the world has to be? And it's not a fun thing to do when you first start. I'm not not gonna lie, but it's
Yeah.
really powerful.
It is. It is really powerful. Yep. It is. Because again, it's like if you wake up in the morning, you think, oh, you know, oh, I've got to do this today and I've got to do that today and I don't want to do this and I don't want to get up. Your whole day's built like that. But if you actually wake up and think, nope, today is going to be a good day. We're going to have a good day. It's going to work out fine. Your day will be lovely and light and It does. Your frame of mind determines how your day is going to be.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Oh my God, I love that.
It is.
Okay, so final question then for the podcast. And I love asking this question to people. And that is, what is your next level of healing? So I see healing as a journey and not as a kind of end point. So what is your next level?
Next level for me, Jackie, honestly, is I've sort of reached the stage now where, on a personal level, I need to get myself a bit more fit. So I need to do work on me, and I've got my eyes on a spa club that I want to join where it's just for me. So that's top of the list. And I'm at the stage where I've now sort of realized it doesn't really matter what other people think, what other people say, what other people are doing. Um, and I really, really don't care what other people say about me anymore. There was a time when I would take it so personally, and I would even sit down and I would hide under the bed sheets and I would cry and I would think, how could they say these things and how could they think those things? But now I don't care. This is my journey. This is my life. And I'm going to be doing things that are, even if it sounds selfish, but it's not selfish, as it puts me first. Yeah. And I've just sort of hit that stage where I'll say no if it's something I don't want to do. If I don't want to do it, I'm not doing it. And it's just all about me and the life round about me now, and keeping that as nice and healthy and progressing as much as we can when we can.
I love that. I
Yeah,
absolutely love that. And it's so important. Like, there is no such thing as being selfish when it comes to self-care. Like, you have to look after you.
you've got to.
Without you, like, there is no there's no life. Like,
No,
that is
yeah.
something
You've,
that's
you've
so
got to
important,
put
I think, that
yourself
people miss.
number one, top of the list, because without you in full function mode, nothing else happens. Everything else suffers. I see so many people that put their work first because they think, if I can crack this work thing and get the money, I've got the freedom to go to holidays, to treat the kids, but they don't realize what damage they're doing in the process because they're neglecting themselves, they're neglecting the family, they're neglecting the holidays, the kids, the everything that goes with it. It needs to be, a lot of people they don't realize they need to reverse everything, put them at the top, then their beliefs, then their core values. And the work's actually quite far down the list. But when you've got the top bits all sorted, the work comes, the income comes, and the freedom comes.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
I love that so much. I love that so much. And I
good.
think, like, it's such a beautiful parting message for people. Like, genuinely, you are the most important piece of the puzzle. And if you aren't at full function,
Yeah,
it makes everything else so much more difficult.
yeah, it does. And I think as well from the coaching side of things, I see so many people, they seem to be spending all their life in social media. And I'm thinking, how do you find the time to spend so much time on social media? And you're talking about things, and the sad reality is nobody really cares. Nobody cares what colour you're dyeing your hair this week, or, what fight you've had with Auntie Mary. Nobody really cares. And for me, I think since before Christmas, I've had a big fight with myself in social media, and I've stepped back hugely. And that's been another part of the healing process, as in you don't need to be
Mm.
in a toxic environment like social media to make your business a success. You just don't need it. You use it for
Mm.
what you need it, and then you get out. Don't get sucked
Yeah,
into it. It's not
absolutely.
worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that that's true even if you don't run a business. Like, social media is designed to suck you in. It's designed to keep you in that space. And it is literally a spiral to the bottom in every sense of the word. Doom scrolling, short attention spans, like, that whole comparison theory of constantly looking at other people. Like, people put up their 3-second reel of their life and make it look like everything is
Yeah,
gorgeous and wonderful, but actually they're really, massively depressed and upset and struggling. And it really isn't a clear indication. And yes, you can find genuine people on social media, of course you can, I'm not saying you can't, but I do think that there
yeah,
has to be a real discernment about what you're doing on that space and why you're on that space and how you're using that space. And if you can't have that discernment, then you need to step away from that space for a time being until you can get that discernment, because it's such a slippery slope for how quickly you can distract yourself
it
from the
is.
things that you're supposed to be
Yeah,
doing and the things that are
I
really
know.
important.
I know. And I think just with the advancement of technology, how it's going, there's a lot of fakery in play acting on social media. And it's a shame because it didn't used to be like that, Jackie. It used to be a place where you could have a bit of a laugh, you could have good fun. And yes,
Mm,
there was, it was nice to see, so and so going out to this posh restaurant and it was nice to see what they had been eating and stuff. But now it's not even engagement anymore. It's just rubbish. Asking questions for the sake of questions. Why? Why are we wasting our time on this? We're wasting
yeah,
precious life. Why are we doing it?
yeah, absolutely. And it's that fake connection, isn't it? People are
Yes.
looking for connection so desperately that they're being sucked into fake connection that isn't actually adding any value or helping in any way or doing anything useful. And it's a really, really challenging space, I think. I mean, I could talk about social media and the dangers of it forever.
Yeah.
Actually, especially when it comes to like the nervous system and your
Yeah.
mind and how it is actually affecting that. But let's wrap it up there, because
Yes, before we go too deep. Yes. Yes.
we could spend another hour talking about that
Yeah.
specifically. But it's been absolutely wonderful, Gwen. Thank you so much for being on the podcast.
No,
It's
thank
been so
you.
lovely to have you share your journey and your story. I think that it's so important. And yeah, just thank you so much.
Been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to another inspiring episode of The Diary of Discovery. If you found value in today's conversation, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and share it with your friends, family, or anyone else you think might benefit from the stories of hope and transformation. Your feedback means the absolute world to us, so please take a moment to leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your reviews help us to reach even more listeners and continue to bring this meaningful content to the world. Until next time, remember, your healing journey is valid. You are never alone, and you have the strength to get through this. Keep shining bright, and we'll see you in the next episode of The Diary of Discovery.